Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Two Idiots podcast. I am Randy.
Hi, I'm Reg.
Hi, Reg. And today we are joined by the immaculate, the great, the high priest himself, Mr. Chris.
Lord of Lords, King of Kings.
Bend the knee.
Yeah. Man above all.
How you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. The very first guest of the Two Idiots podcast of
Yes,
all time
sir.
is Chris Lutes, and he's back again for a record-tying third time. Welcome.
Right on. It's record tying, eh?
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty sweet.
Well, Canoe has you beat.
Yeah, you're an elite company.
Oh, yeah. Right on.
Yep. So welcome back, Chris. It's been a hot minute since you were back here, but things have changed.
Indeed.
Such as?
You're on another path. You. We're exactly the same. We're just the hot garbage podcast that we've always been.
Basically.
And, we interrupt this episode to bring you breaking news. This important PSA is brought to you by Manscaped.com. This is your pubic service announcement and the news you've all been waiting for. The Manscaped engineering team has confirmed that they have successfully created the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, which is now available for purchase in the USA and Canada.
This new trimmer was just released only moments ago, and we're one of the first to get our hands on it and share the news. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you, 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code IDIOTS at manscaped.com.
Worldwide. I'm one of the first people to try the new 4.0, and I'm blown away by the performance. The craftsmanship and details on the 4.0 are next level. Honestly, I never thought I would ever be promoting the craftsmanship of a trimmer, but their advanced ceramic blade and skin-safe technology is so good that it almost seems as if Manscaped worked with Elon Musk's engineers to ensure your testes are as safe as possible. It's high praise.
That is high praise. Very much high praise. Now, again, fellas, we've all been there. We've nicked ourselves, and trimming your balls in general, I think it's good. I think it's, it keeps the odors down. It doesn't become cumbersome. You don't get tangles. You ever tangle a pubic hair? It ain't fun.
Yeah, it's the worst.
Yeah, it ain't fun. Okay. So what makes this trimmer different than all the other trimmers? A new multifunction on-off switch can engage a travel lock created for people who like to travel.
Ooh.
The Lawnmower 4.0 gives you the ability to turn on the 4000K. This is a bright ass light, people. LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. The new trimmer even allows you to customize your trim all over through additional guard lengths with sizes 1 to 4. And looks-wise, it's sleek with a two-tone matte and gloss finish. Even features a hot foil stamped black chrome Manscaped logo. Show that mower off loud and proud, baby.
Yeah, and with those guards, you can get the perfect fade on your your crotch shave. The optimized Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer is waterproof, so you can groom in the shower and not have to worry about making a mess on the bathroom floor. Did I mention wireless charging? I didn't, but here we go. The Lawnmower 4.0's new wireless charging system uses electromagnetic induction, so fancy I can't even say it, which can help the battery length last longer.
If you're still trimming your face with your ball trimmer, it's time to make some changes.
Yeah,
Get
boy.
20% off and free shipping with the code IDIOTS at manscaped.com. No person wants to end up with pubes in their mouth, and your balls will thank you.
You're welcome, significant others. So treat yourself and the special person in your life by going to manscaped.com, where you get 20% off and free shipping with the code IDIOTS at manscaped.com. That is 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Use the code IDIOTS, IDIOTS. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. But now we get to discuss your new career path, kind of what's going on with that, and the good old Chris Lutes that we know and love.
Yes, sir.
Well, like you said, things change, but at the same time, it feels like the change is only the things that have fallen away that don't belong to you anymore. Just the things the paths that you wanted to take for a long time, it's been present for years, and everything else has just kind of crumbled away. So that is represented as change, but it's more or less just stepping into the path that you've seen before you.
Okay. So
just like any change in life.
Yeah.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. Because, like I'm still the exact same person, but it's just, rearranging your life to do the things that you want to do and follow your heart into the direction that you want to take it.
For sure. And
100%.
frankly, we all have things that I'm sure we would like to do that we don't for whatever reason. So all the power to, or props to you for taking that step. So on that note, so basically you recently quit a career or quit where you were working, where you and I work together, and I'm very sad.
Yeah.
I miss you every day.
I miss you and everyone else as well. I didn't get to work with Randy, but maybe one of those days.
You don't want to. He smells funny.
Yeah.
But no, so yeah, basically you're now moving into your own kind of self business, like your own homemade sort of project. So let's discuss that a little bit. What's the plan? What are you doing these days, Chris? What's getting you up out of bed every morning?
Well, what I did was I created a service. It's called Spirit Counsel. And what it is that I work one-on-one with individuals who are looking to pretty much improve themselves or kind of work through the thresholds and boundaries that they feel within themselves. Because over the years, that's essentially what our life has become. We've continually been faced with challenges over and over and over again. And some of the times we get stagnant in these challenges. We feel overwhelmed, stressed out. A lot of people in the world, and I'm not even talking about the COVID factor, have been feeling a high level of stress, anxiety. Mental health has been a big one over the last number of years. And that's because on a worldwide scale, I feel what's been going on with our society over the centuries and millennia is that we've been kind of living in disharmony with ourselves, living in disharmony with the planet. And this is represented inside of us as an internal friction. We're feeling a high level of anxiety at all times. Like a lot of people are struggling just to get out of bed every day, and we all put on a face and a mask just to get there. Yeah. But the amount of drug overdoses, drug abuse, the suicide rate, all of these things have been phenomenally high in the last number of years, and that's because everybody's been overwhelmed with these internal feelings that they can't quite process. And so all of us tend to complain about everything, like we're very, we observe the outside world, and a lot of us just like to complain about it. But it gets to a point where we realize complaining doesn't do anything about it. So at some point, we actually have to start taking some positive action and actually address these issues and get to the core of what it really is. And
for sure. So then what do you attribute the heightened anxiety, or I guess it's not necessarily heightened if that's sort of what we've always kind of dealt with, but from your perspective, I guess as a now a counselor, what do you attribute that to?
What I see it as is we're living in disharmony with the natural path that our spirit wants us to go. I feel a little bit of a background to this, I suppose. First and foremost is that each and every one of us on the planet is a spirit. We're a soul. We existed before this human body, this lifetime, and will continue to exist after it. And we continue to come to Earth over and over and over again, incarnate over and over for the overall expansion and growth of the soul, so that you become a more wise soul, a knowledge soul. You experience more and more, and you bring on different sets of challenges. And every time you incarnate onto the planet, you set out like a theme for yourself. You can almost call it a destiny, a purpose, a path that you want to take. And on our path that we're walking, we go from a baby, we start to be a toddler and move up in the years. The path starts to present itself more and more. You start to see exactly the things you're interested in, the path you want to go. You feel it as an inner urge, like an inner feeling, an inner gauge telling you that I should be going this way with my life. And I feel the anxiety, the friction that we feel inside is when we actually stop walking off that path. I feel like our soul is telling us to go one way, but we, with our mind, are saying, no, I'm going to try this or do that. Or you just get stagnant and you become depressed and anxious, and you just kind of don't live the inner urges of your heart. Because most of the time, your heart is urging you to step outside of your comfort zone.
Right.
Every single time there's a period of growth, it's because you've stepped outside of yourself and kind of opened up a bigger door. So the biggest thing that I see that's going on in the planet is a lot of us don't really take the steps that our inner self is telling us to take. And I feel the longer that we let that go on in life, the longer we're going to slip into a worse state.
Right. You can almost equate it to, like, to me, it sounds like the pull of when, your gut's telling you to do one thing, but it's like your brain says, well, this is the safe route though, so let's do this, right?
That's right. Yeah. Because all of us have that. Every single person has like an inner, I call it like the golden compass, guiding us a certain direction. And if we continually follow that path, it's always going to take us into periods of stepping outside of our comfort zone.
Mhm.
But that is the path that our soul wants us to take. And when we take those steps and follow that path, we're going to feel that wholeness, that fulfilling. Yeah, you won't have any emptiness within you, because the biggest thing that I've noticed with a lot of people is they have a hollowness to them. They don't feel full. They feel kind of like they're dragging their feet every step they take. And it doesn't need to be that way. Life doesn't need to be lived that way. We're not meant to come here onto this planet just to suffer like this. The only experience that we should be going for is what our heart is telling us to go for, not what anybody else says, regardless of how it looks or what people are going to think of you, or if you feel you don't have the confidence for it. That's the reason why your soul is telling you to go this way, so that you can develop confidence. You become a self-sustaining person without needing to rely on anybody else. You're self-governing, and all of these beneficial things that come along with that. So every single time you do something outside of your comfort zone, it's nerve-wracking. It's daunting. You're going to lose sleep over it. But when you do it, it's the most exciting feeling in the world. You put your hands above your head, you're screaming with joy, and it's rewarding. And you kind of have to continue to do that your entire life, because that's all there really is to do on this planet.
I mean,
we weren't born to
you switching to this, like from a fairly stable, as most people would expect, a stable type career type thing, to moving to this is basically exactly that moving forward, jumping into the abyss and seeing what's what. But the question I'm getting to, so when you're talking about reincarnating and spirits and souls and that they exist forever and always and everywhere, what are you basing that notion on? Like, where did you learn that? What's sort of your methodology to determine that?
Well, growing up as a young kid, I've always felt there was more than meets the eye, that there's just a grand mystery beyond what we can perceive here. And as I got older, I started to look at the world around me, and just to see how everybody's drinking and abusing drugs and lost and depressed and just all of that kind of stuff as a package deal. The whole world, it looks like it's in chaos. And into my teen years, I started to get severely depressed about this. Started looking around like, what is this life really all about? What is the purpose of all of this? Why are we here? Why was I born onto this planet that is just looks like everyone's suffering and no one knows what's going on? And this is what's termed as a spiritual awakening. It's kind of two sides of the same coin. I've noticed this with a lot of people around the world who experience a spiritual awakening. They go through a severe period of depression, and it gets to a point where you kind of hit that rock bottom, and you have an epiphany of sorts. You have an experience. For everybody, it's very individual, but you have an experience that kind of shows you beyond the threshold of our reality, to see that there is a spirit world out there. And that's actually our home, and that's where we come from. That's base camp, and incarnating onto an Earth-like planet, or a planet like Earth, is essentially like we're renting this physical body as like a rental vehicle. Like the soul, your personality, everything about you is the operator of the vehicle. You come into the body just to experience what you need to experience and to grow. And you've done this, we've all done this multiple times. But in my case, I had a few epiphanies. It's all internal, and it led to a path of healing, because all of us in our aura, we have like it's almost like inner baggage. Like I explained how a lot of people kind of walk around like they're dragging their feet. Yeah. It's literally because inside of us we're holding on to like past traumas, whether this intergenerational traumas, belief systems that we've gotten into from children, like we talked about this on the other episodes about feeling like, like as a young child, say a baby, you give a gift to a baby, right? How many times have you seen the baby play with the box and not the actual item itself?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
They're more excited about the box, right? Just like an animal, right? But as we get older, we watch commercials and TV and things like that, and they kind of tell you that you're not a happy person. You're already a happy person, but they convince you that you're not a happy person unless you have this item, unless you have this, or you drive this vehicle, or you live in this neighborhood. And those are the kind of things that happen as we get older. Now you need to buy the big truck and all the toys and all that kind of thing. And they've convinced you that you feel lesser than if you don't have these items. So that's why you see a lot of people in the world constantly buying items, never feeling fulfilled. Buy, spend, never feeling anything internally fulfilling. So to kind of take it back to this, like for myself, like I had all those belief systems in me as well. So I spent a period of years of working on myself, looking through different healing modalities. Meditation was a big one that helped with that. But ultimately it led to me for going to do the ayahuasca trip. And during the ayahuasca experience, you literally break through that threshold and go back to the spirit world from where we all come from. You see it firsthand, you feel it, everything snaps back into alignment. You feel and remember everything. And you just remember that you're coming back to earth for an experience, to develop yourself, to work through, say, confidence issues, or for everybody, it's different. Some people might incarnate onto the planet to experience one thing, and that just might be how to be a better friend or how to be a great dad. Because maybe in a previous lifetime, they were, say, an absent parent, and on their deathbed, they realized, oh my God, I spent my whole life not spending any time with my family or friends, and I was just a workaholic or whatever it may be. So every person's situation is different. And so that whole theme of that next lifetime for them might just be to say, I'm going to be the best damn dad that I can possibly be. And when they're laying on their deathbed, they're going to look back and say, wow, I did it.
So then,
and then
the goal would be, say in that example, the person that reincarnates to be a better dad, then when they die, then their spirit floats and reanimates as some other personal progression thing in their next being. Am I understanding that right?
Yeah, essentially, taking your last breath on this planet is the first, like closing your eyes on this planet for the last time is opening them the first time in the spirit world. Not the first time, but if you ever look at anybody who's had a near-death experience, there's tons of videos out there, and all of them explain the same thing, that it's a remembrance of home. Just, oh my God, like it's a nerve-wracking feeling, but they wake up into, it's almost like popping out of a shell, like the way a plant would. You pop out back into the spirit world, and it's just home. All of your friends and family are there. Close people I dealt with in other lifetimes will be there present for you. People have described remembering someone that they've never experienced in this lifetime, but they're there greeting them when they pass over. So all of these kind of things are present. So when you pass, you're going to go back and you're going to have a life review, and you're going to talk about what you want to do for the next time. You have spirit guides, and there's different levels of progression too. There's very advanced souls that are helping everybody with these things to say, okay, well, you want to go this way in life, you want to learn this, so we'll set up your next lifetime to shoot and aim for this particular theme and purpose. And that's why, like, actually I've used that analogy quite a bit, that this life kind of is like a video game, that the actual person on the other end of the controller is in the spirit world, and we're playing as the character, but it's up to us. We come through into this planet with a veil of forgetfulness, and we kind of the only thing we really have in us is a seed to say that in this lifetime I want to go this way. We call it a destiny. A lot of people call it destiny or purpose, and it is, but it's more or less like a theme that you want to explore, because we still have free will to explore it in any way we want. But your heart will always nudge you into that direction. And like I said, not following that is the internal friction we're all feeling right now.
Right.
Is that anxiety, that unfulfilling, like a feeling of discontent.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah, I do like the reincarnation theory behind it, because that's always what I've sort of personally believed about death, is that, and if not just to make myself feel better about it, that it's not just black nothingness, right? Like you go in, and then the white light, quote unquote, is just you going into another lifetime, right? So like I always attribute like kind of deja vu to maybe something like that, right? Like, hey, I really feel like I've seen this before, and this has happened before, but I can't really explain why, right? So I mean, that lends some credence to that theory, right? That's
the
sort
glitch
of
in the
how I
Matrix,
always thought about it.
obviously.
Yeah, exactly, right. The woman in the red dress.
Look again.
Yeah. I don't know. That's interesting, because I didn't realize that you had that thought, Randy. But it's just, again, I'm the skeptic, I guess, is sort of what in our dynamic, because I'm I firmly think that it just ends and you become nothing, and that doesn't bother me at all. I don't know. I understand why it bothers people, but personally, from that perspective, in my thinking, is that then incentivizes you to live your best life. Because if you have a finite time on the planet, then you're gonna fucking live it. And I've heard people
Right.
say that, well, if it just ends, then why bother? I'm sure that's a perspective, but I don't necessarily fall into that. But just on the flip, it's just everything is sweeter, better because it's potentially short. You
Right.
know? So I've never
That's the
felt
thing.
like I needed this to be reincarnated or any of that. But maybe that's just my own programming.
But like living on this planet for say 60, 70, 80 years is the blink of an eye in the grand scheme of the entire universe,
Oh, of course.
multiverse.
Right.
Yeah,
You know, the
there's no doubt
billions
that,
and
but
yeah, for us to come out of blackness and then to close our eyes into blackness, it doesn't make sense. Like if you look at say a family that has triplets, you know, all three babies born at the same time to the same parents, living in the same environment with the same teachings, the same babysitters, the same everything. Why does each child grow up to be completely different? Each one likes a different color. Each one has different taste, personality. One wants to become a doctor. One wants to go become a BMX rider. You know, they all have a different path that's set out before them. You know, so this is pretty much the grand point of Spirit Counsel. Is what I'm doing is getting to the reason why you're not feeling your level of fulfillment that you want to feel in life, because we're just all of us are kind of walking off the path a little too much, and we're seeing it extrapolated out there into the world. Like there's nothing but if you just take a glimpse of the world right now, it's kind of chaotic.
Mhm.
sure. Yeah.
Well, and in
In many
today's
ways.
world of like social media and stuff too, right? Where people's expectations of what life is supposed to be gets, often out of skew because of what you see on other people's news feeds. And they're always a lot of people are putting out, fake life. You don't see the down and the dirty of it. You don't see all the shitty moments they have because no one puts that out there, right? So your view gets skewed in that, well, I'm just supposed to be happy all the time. And if I'm not living up to what this person's doing, then like, am I even living, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it bleeds into the consumerism as well, where
Right.
you're always trying to sell something, you're always trying to buy something. The grass is always greener, and that's toxic. Whether or not you're into the spirituality of it, or just the basic notion that we are all, at least those of us in Canada in general, like especially us in this conversation, we're all a lot better set than the internet
Mhm.
or outside media would want us to believe, right? Like it's um, that's not true for everybody, obviously, but for most people that bitch and moan about nothing, they could probably do to take a little step back. But I want to drill down a little bit more. So basically, as far as again, I don't want to be combative or anything, but
All
I'm
right.
trying to
Yeah.
understand. Yeah. Anybody who knows me and Chris, we get along really well, and I love Chris, but I am curious. So
Yeah.
with the spiritual stuff, you're talking about a lot of notions and kind of broad ideas as though they're known facts, and I'm curious why you think that. That's why I asked kind of what it's based on, kind of what is what's the structure behind it. I'm curious how you got to these conclusions.
Well, I love the term experience is the best teacher, right?
Sure.
So, like I said, since I've been, I'd say a mid-teenager, my mid-teens, I've kind of been dealing with these kind of things, these feelings of just feeling hollow, feeling empty, and looking for the purpose and reason to, beyond that. So, for me, it's all been about experience, having experiences with meditation, actually going and slipping into other realities, which is pretty mind blowing. It's something you can't even really explain to people. It's just like the ayahuasca experience. You
Yeah.
can't really explain something that you've experienced. But looking at philosophers from the past, I've been doing a lot of reading, learning, immersed myself in the classrooms. I've traveled all over the world just to hear people speak. These kind of things, all these little things have just been breadcrumbs along the way for me to make the loaf of bread. So
Right.
essentially that's what it's been. So for me, and I understand how it can be received, the words I'm saying, because it is pretty out there. I mean, I get it. I can imagine like hearing what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Of course, and I don't mean to be a dick. If that's coming across, it's not at all what I'm trying to be. I'm just
No,
trying to
no,
understand
not
your
at all.
perspective. Yeah.
But I think the main thing we can all agree on is that in life, we go through a lot of struggles and pain, and we're not really quite sure what it is. You know, so for me, I've experienced a lot of that throughout my life, and heading this direction and working on myself over and over and over again. It's been like, if you can kind of picture an onion and keep peeling layers off of it, you're at the core of it. And like, say one layer of that onion is like belief systems we learned when we were young kids, say about, remember that we talked about the 5-star binder? You know, like watching the commercial, seeing the kid with the 5-star binder and like, hey, you want to be cool in school, man?
Right.
You got to have the 5-star binder, right? You know, thinking like things like that, like, okay, well, I guess I'm not cool because I don't have it. You know, like that's just one little example,
Right.
but little things like that. So as you get older, you kind of realize that you've been hanging on to, like, say, things like that, you know, and continuing to peel those layers off to get down to the core of who you really are. So all it is it's a progression of self-discovery, continuing to work on not letting your anxieties just linger and think that this is how life is and I'm going to live this way until the day I die, but actually addressing it and saying, I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to live feeling like I don't belong here, like feeling that, you know, I'm feeling unfulfilled, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of realizing a little bit more of the true nature of what reality really is.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense, and the notion of it is totally positive, and I'm totally in support of that. I'm curious, when you decided to start pivoting towards this. I mean, you said it's kind of a lifelong journey to get to where you are. Did you have experiences with people, like one-on-one, that kind of encouraged you to then say, I'm gonna do this full time, and you know, help more people?
Actually, my whole life it's been like this. I can't even count the amount of times I've, say, gone to a grocery store and I'm talking with the cashier and she just tells me her entire life story, or him or whoever. And they kind of, they show me their full hand, all the cards. And we have a simple conversation. And again, it doesn't always have to be about spiritual topics, because I've explained this to a lot of other people in the spiritual community, that you don't have to tell people about spiritual, like all the lingo we're using right now, all the, you know, like crossing over and the thresholds and all this stuff. We're talking about that now just because of what I'm doing for Spirit Counsel. But the majority of the time, if you genuinely just look at somebody and ask them how they're doing and show interest and care in that, that's really the majority of healing that you need to do. So most of the time, everyone just says, yeah, I'm good. But you just have this knowing and a feeling that they're not that good. You know, they're just telling you that because that's just what we do in a society. We just tell each other, yeah, I'm good. I'm great. Everything's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But all it takes is a couple more questions and boom, it's the floodgates are open. So I've had so many experiences like this in my life that I just said, you know what? Like I loved my job. I enjoy being an electrician. I enjoy making a fantastic install. It looks great. It's going to last forever. I love that. It's a very rewarding feeling. But at the same time, is that why we're on this planet? Just to continue to work Monday to Friday, 40 hours a week, just kind of rinse and repeat, and use that money to just go to Costco and buy some stuff and consume it and go back to work and just, you know, consume, you know what I mean? That whole cycle of just, do I want to do this until I'm 65? I might not even make it there.
Yeah.
You know, so
Right.
I decided, I had a feeling, I feel like I can help. I see a lot of people out there in the world needing help. And I just said, you know what, I'm going to go for it. I'm just going to make the change. And I feel great, you know, like actually like leaving the job was actually, it was a big step, you know, but it
100%. Yeah. That's a big life change.
But it was on my mind for, I would say, a solid 3 years. And I said, okay.
It was never in doubt. Like when I first heard it, I'm like, of course he did. But just like, it was, just even having conversations with you, like you speaking or mentioning that, having conversations with people that they just unload. I'm a chatty Cathy with most people, but when you and I are talking, I lose track of time. We just shoot the shit, and it's good. It's great. You know, I enjoy it. So you definitely have that effect on people. So when I heard, but we've discussed multiple times where you've talked about, you know, why are we working for the man? You know, that type of rhetoric where it's like we need to be looking after us and moving forward, and kind of the underlying thoughts is sort of like what you're now alluding to or expanding on. You've kind of always laid those seeds for a while, so I wasn't surprised at all that you moved on, even though I was a little bit shocked, but I wasn't at the end of the day that surprised.
Yeah, a lot of people said the same thing. I said, it doesn't really surprise me.
Yeah,
Which is it's kind of cool, because I guess I have kind of talked and like hinted about that for a long time, and I almost pulled the pin on it last year. I got accepted into a social work program, and I was to the hour where I needed to respond. I was thinking about it, and I said, "Oh, it's too big of a leap of faith to take right now. I'm not going to take that leap yet." So I kind of had this checklist of things I wanted to accomplish before I actually quit. So I checked all those off, and I got to the point where there's nothing left on my list. I'm like, well, what's stopping me now? It's like, why not just do it and actually, go with this idea that's been in my heart for a long time, and let's just follow it, make it happen, and see what comes of it.
That's really powerful. Because again, we interviewed a guy who's now rapping in Vietnam, from kind of the local area, and the same thing. His mom passed away, and it was sort of like life is fleeting. So why am I not pursuing what I want to do? So that's what he's doing, and that's similar to what you're doing, and similar to what a lot of people do. But most of us, myself included, we wax poetic about this sucks, and we want to do this, and we might want to try that someday. And whether or not you ever do it, often most people don't. So it's powerful to hear.
Yeah, and it's not as scary as you think. Because I feel all of us have that within us. Most people you talk to say, "Oh, I want to quit my job, man." And I was like, "Yeah, I get it. Right on, right?" Because it's not that there's nothing wrong with a job. There's nothing wrong with working. Like, I love working. I chopped wood all morning today. I love staying busy and using your body, right? But just the amount and the drive of what we're doing it for, like, we're continuously working. We're almost slaves to the dollar. We're just, everything revolves around money. I don't think money's evil. People say money's the root of all evil. I don't think it is. I think it's our obsession over it. The entire world's revolved around it.
Consumerism in general.
Yeah, it's gotten out of hand. It's gotten to the point, like, look at how expensive everything is right now. Like, the housing market, people are spending over $100,000 on a house that needs renovations. And you go to buy renovation material, like a 2x4 right now is $10.
Yeah.
Used to be
almost $100. Yeah.
Yeah. Everything's gotten so out of hand. Like, the inflation has just gotten ridiculous, but we keep working for this dollar. And I just feel that we're on a turning point in our society. I feel that we're kind of pivoting in a different direction because we have to. I think the game that we've all been playing here for a long time is over. Like, analogy I've been using is, when you're playing a Monopoly with your friends or family, about 6 of you around the table, you're playing Monopoly. It becomes pretty clear at some point who's the winner. Someone's got all the hotels, all the properties, a stack of cash, and you just keep going around the table over and over and over again until they finally have everything. And I feel like in our society, it's pretty much like that right now. You got about 6 companies that own everything, and the governments just keep pumping out these billion and $trillion stimulus packages to keep everybody playing. Here's more money. Here's more money. Let's keep going around the table over and over and over.
Never really reaching the people that could use it, and that would actually go back into the economy.
Yeah. So I just feel that to continue, like I said, I love work, but just to continue going and doing this for the rest of my life, just to continue making a few bucks, just to kind of contribute into that. It just came pretty clear. It was pretty evident that I said, well, I'm not enjoying what I'm doing here. I mean, I was, but but this was really calling. Like, the voice of this was really loud.
Yeah. Well,
Like, you can enjoy it, but it's not fulfilling, like you said, right? People come to you and say they feel hollow, or I was a shell of myself, right? That's kind of, so it's good that you listen to that gut, you just went with it. Like, even as Red said, right? Like, he told me today for the first time, like an hour before, like, he came to my house, drop a camera off, and he's like, "Oh yeah, Chris doesn't even work there anymore. He's doing this thing now." I was like, "Oh, yeah, that checks out. I get that." Like, and I've only spoken to you, a handful of times, right? But I can get that vibe from you right away that you're all about, like, the people and just wanting to help and listen and talk. And I think it's cool what you're doing, man. I'm happy for you that you're happy doing it and fulfilling something inside yourself.
Thanks a lot, Randy. That's awesome.
We should talk about how Monopoly wasn't meant to be to show how good monopolies were. It was meant to show how bad monopolies were. But then people are like, "Hey, this is kind of fun." and then it just took off. But like the whole
Oh
point
yeah.
was, it was designed to show that monopolies are technically evil and bad for the average person, and
Oh yeah.
people. Of course, we bastardize it and make it our own, and, and now we all want the
People love the
hotels and,
power.
yeah, we all want the power.
But
Yeah.
it doesn't it feel like that? Like extrapolating that out into the
Absolutely.
world,
100%.
that it's gotten to a point where there's a handful of companies left, and especially with all this COVID business, all the small guys have been wiped out, the majority of them, and it's just the big guys left. With the stimulus is coming in, so
Yeah,
like, it's a game. It's a game that no one wants to play anymore.
Well, and it's
Like
yeah,
if that was
it's
my
totally
Monopoly
broken.
board, it's okay. It's over.
Yeah,
You know,
well,
we see in the winter.
we talked about, like, Hawaka White Cloud. You made that, that film with him where you're in that film. And when he was on the show, we talked about, the billionaires and the wealth inequality and how it's just getting worse.
Mm-hmm.
And it's truly astounding that so much money and power and possessions are controlled by so few. And it's not changing anytime soon because the powers that be have no incentive to change it. Giving tax breaks to these giant corporations in some broken way to claim that, oh, it's good for the economy because maybe it helps the stock market is total nonsense. Because if you give, like, say there's a single mom with 3 kids living off, food stamps or welfare or something, if you give her $1,000, that $1,000 immediately goes back into the economy. If you give Jeff Bezos $1,000, it doesn't even change the number on his tax form, or
Right.
on his balance sheet. It never sees the light of day again, because if it did, he wouldn't be worth 180 gajillion billion trillion dollars. It's ludicrous.
It's pretty wild. Like imagine if every dollar, say we didn't exchange a currency in dollars and it was like, say, stones or pebbles.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the mountain that this guy'd be
Right.
sitting on?
Have
And
you
to
seen
kind
that
of
video?
just
Someone did that with rice. They basically said they equivalized, I think, one piece of rice to, was it $100 or $1 million? I forget. And he sort of goes by, it might have been $1 million, and he shows like 1 million is this pile, 1 billion is this, and then he's like Jeff Bezos, and he just literally poured like almost a bag of rice, and it was just mound of rice in this or in this demonstration, and it's truly mind-boggling.
see, and like I encourage people to follow their heart and their dream and become successful. And if you make a lot of money along the way, that's great. But there does hit a point where you say, how can this be so drastically different from like if you extrapolate out to the world and just see how many people are actually suffering, and you have the power to actually do something with it. I think if you have the responsibility to do something about it, if you can.
I agree.
If you've hit that level of achievement, it has to get out there. Like, did you know that the indigenous tribes to the land actually looked at hoarding as a mental illness? If they found somebody in the tribe was, say, hoarding like extra rice in their teepee, they wouldn't shun on them, but they would treat it as an illness and say, why are you hoarding that? Because don't you see that you keeping that is actually starving everybody else around here? And so they would help that person, help them to see that you don't need to hoard.
Yeah.
You're going to have enough. Life's going to take care of you, but you can't take away from everybody else here.
That
100%.
Yeah, that checks out. Randy, we've mentioned it before in past episodes, but again, over time, is there anything that, like Chris going with the spirit council and kind of following your gut or your instinct? What do you think would you dive into balls deep if you just decided to say, dive in?
Become a pro wrestler, 100%.
Still that? Yeah.
It's ever since I was a kid, it's something I wanted to do, and I always looked at it as like, people are just gonna think I'm fucking stupid, so I never did it, right? And I'm like, now I look back and I'm like, shit, you know what? 20-year-old me should have just gone for it and just said screw it, drop the couple grand on some wrestling classes and let's just go to town and see where it goes.
Yeah.
But that was always my childhood dream, man. And if I could go back and do it again, that would be what I do. I'm a little old now to do it. I got a lot of responsibilities, but yeah, if I could go back and do that again, that would 100% be what I would do.
No, that's great.
What, Randy, what was the name you and your brother had there?
Well, me and my brother were going to be the Mennonite Mafia.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's it.
We were going to have the Schmolflat as our finisher.
Yeah.
It was going to be perfect. But yeah, I know that was always the dream. So yeah, again, if I could go back and do it and really fulfill the kid in me, that would be what I would do.
That's fair. Then there's nothing else that you would Like as an adult now, knowing that you may be too old to start the wrestling dream now, there's nothing that tickles your fancy that you might want to get into now?
Like becoming a dad was a big thing for me. So like that's really fulfilled me at this point. I mean, I'm sure there'll be other things I want to do as I get older, but right now that's my focus, just being as good a dad as I can be and setting her up for whatever life is going to throw at her so she can follow that dream at 20 years old that I was too stupid to never follow, right?
Yeah, that's sweet.
Not stupid, you know what I mean.
But see, you're doing something awesome there. You know, you're extracting a valuable lesson out of your experiences in life. So you're saying you witnessed, you know, the path you took. You say, okay, well, I can do something about that and make a change for my children. So you're still extracting something great out of that. You know, because like I feel like life is constantly presenting us lessons all the time. It's up, we can choose to look at it as a lesson or not. You could say, wow, you know what, I'm going to extract a little bit of information out of this and I'm going to use it to change my life going forward. So I still think that's an awesome thing.
Well,
What happens if this just popped in my head? With reincarnation, what if there's fewer people being born than people dying? Do they just become things?
No, well, this kind of extrapolates out into the entire multiverse now. Because when you're in spirit, you can choose to be born on whatever planet you want, whether it be Earth or any other planet. You know, that's going a little deeper than maybe you kind of wanted to here, but but it's true. But it's true. Earth isn't the only planet with life on it. You know, we've had
that?
again experience, man. and it's hard to explain experiences.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
sure.
Like if I could have an internal camera and record everything that I've seen, especially during the experiences,
Yeah.
then it's
See, but I do find it funny that when you talk about like doing the ayahuasca trip and people who do that in general all have a very similar experience between that and I guess like DMT, where they say it feels like you kind of go to a place that's between life and death. And that's a very common experience amongst pretty much everybody that does these things, is that and it feels as real as like if this is, you know, what we're looking at right now with these computer screens, this would be, you know, 8-bit NES, and
yeah.
that realm is like 1080p HD 8K, like that's the real shit, and then this is just kind of like it is what it is. But a lot of people have that same thing where they say this reality isn't actually reality, this like that is reality.
That's precisely it. Like this actually feels like a like you said, very low res reality. I mean, when you look around, it feels very clear, but in comparison to what we normally live at outside of this lifetime, it is beyond real. It's ultra real. And the thing is too, when you're there, you're living in infinity. There's no beginning, there's no end, there's no death, there's no pain, there's no suffering. It's just experience. It's just presence. It's just your consciousness, and it's interaction with every other kind of being out there. Like there's beings that live in all kinds of different formats, not just human flesh. Like there's beings that live in, like I believe we talked about this on the last episode of if you look at the electromagnetic scale, it goes from very low or long waves to super high waves, like gamma rays. You know, what we can visibly see with our eyes out of this big chunk is this. We see a sliver. That's what we can perceive with these things, right? But there's all of this other experience that's out there. You know, we can measure it with the test equipment, but we can't see it or feel it, but it exists.
Yeah.
You know, and that's pretty much stepping outside of our threshold when you do things like this. And even people who've had near-death experiences. I just seen a story recently of a woman who had a near-death experience, and when she came back into her body, she was at home. She had a stroke or a heart attack. She went and had this multiverse trip. She left her body, flew around the universe, and experienced all kinds of things. And when she popped back in her body in the living room, the FedEx guy came to the door. Right, so she got up, she went, knocked on the door, and she said she was just looking at the guy, and she could just see plain as day that he was just he was in his character as the FedEx guy, but she could see that why are you playing like this character? This isn't really you. This is just this is like, again, the video game analogy. You're playing as a FedEx guy.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
she said it was so
Terrible
surreal to
video
her.
game.
Yeah. But again, it comes down for the experience, because in spirit, you don't get to have any kind of physical experience. So as a soul, when you're floating around out there in the where at home, you say, okay, well, I want to incarnate to have an experience to see what this physical world's all about, and I want to see what having a family's like, and or I want to see what it's like to backpack across the world, kind of thing, and do those kind of things.
Right.
There's really, it's individual to everybody, but it's just an experience that you want to have. That's pretty much all it comes down to. Like, Reg, let me ask you, before you guys started this podcast, how long was it on your mind?
Oh, not as long as it should have been. If we're being honest. But no, I mean, when we went whole hog, probably like 6-ish months, we started getting the mics together, and then we started working on a different show, and then this one just sort of became a thing.
It kind of evolved out of it.
Yeah, so probably a handful of months, I would think, Randy, something like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, give or take, for sure. I was sort of on the same thing. I would say from when I started listening to podcasts to actually doing it, yeah, it would have been, I would say, probably 6 to 8 months prior. So I was
when I started listening to podcasts was years before. But
yeah,
when I
well, because and me and Reg were just like, well, we talk for 4 hours at 1 a.m. in the morning anyway, like we used to on MSN all the time back in the day,
Yeah.
right? So why not just spew it out into the world? And then we just sort of said,
Yeah.
okay, well, let's just fucking do it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. The opportunity presented itself, and you just went for it, eh?
I guess. I mean, frankly, we kind of built the opportunity because I don't know if I don't know if it ever necessarily presented itself, or that it became a thing without us making it a thing. But yeah, it's sort of been that type of.
You could say we followed our guts and decided to do it.
Nice.
That's
awesome.
I never felt that kind of. I mean, I'm like I said, maybe this is that manifesting itself, but I'm neurotic enough that I can persevere if I'm into it. You know what I mean? Which is what the podcast has been, and that's, we can push through and keep going and grinding. So maybe that is some gut feeling that I wasn't aware of, maybe, or something. But it never felt like there was that sort of like intuitive, dive in sort of experience. Now, if I were to then quit my job and do this full time, then that would be probably more in line with that type of thing.
But of all things for you in the world to pick, why choose a podcast where you're continually interacting with other people? What is the draw for you to speak and interview so many different kinds of people?
Well, it's 100% the experiences part of, and that's where I can understand the whole spiritual interaction thing, because my entire life I've like, when I was a kid, I would always want to hang out with the adults, and I would always chat with the adults, and I've always had kind of, I guess, a more mature level of, I don't know, I always wanted to chat with the adults and kind of learn things. I always want to learn things and experience things, and if people can tell me their stories, then I can learn from them and move forward, right? Which probably falls perfectly into the point you're trying to make. So,
well, the only reason I ask it, because I'm looking at the wall behind you, and you probably got hundreds of books there. It just seems to me that you're the kind of person who appreciates gathering knowledge from a lot of different kind of people, just to see many different perspectives. So it looks like what you're doing with the podcast is exactly that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it wasn't the plan, but that is what it has become.
That's awesome. That's pretty cool.
But yeah, no, it's been a treat. And again, we get to interact with people like you doing interesting things that I would never think of. And frankly, I probably don't fully understand, if I'm being really honest.
But see, the thing too is, like, even with myself, as you take these steps, a lot of the time you're not shown the full path.
Yeah.
You're not shown, like, there's been so many times, like back in the day, I had this dying fear of heights. Like, it would just shake me to my core. And all of a sudden this idea came out of me to say, well, the only way you're going to conquer your fear of heights is if you go skydiving. I'm like, holy smokes, right? I'm thinking about this for weeks, months, years. And I said, well, I don't like the feeling that I'm afraid to even go near a ledge and look down. And it's like, well, inside is telling me, right, go skydiving. So I finally booked it. I'm shaking, I'm sweating, I'm crying, right? All that kind of stuff. And I booked it despite all my fears. I just said, okay, well, there's something telling me to go skydiving, so just do it, And so I did it. right? I jumped out of a plane, and when I hit the ground, I had my arms above my head. I'm screaming, yeah, I'm just pumped.
Yeah.
And next thing I know is I got the job that I had, and which required you to be at heights all the time. And I may not have gotten that job if I had my fear of heights.
Yeah.
Right.
So like, even with what I'm doing now, my heart's telling me to, create the website, put yourself out there, get your name out there, all that kind of stuff. I don't know where the next step will be. It always just becomes clear afterwards. But it's like, we're not going to show you step 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, because if anything, that's only going to scare you.
Yeah.
That's going to make you not do it. So it's like, well, okay, well, all I can see in front of me right now is the next step, the next rung on the ladder. It's like, okay, well, just grab it and hold on and go for it. Because after doing this for weeks, months, or years, there's going to be something else. That's just the nature of life. Things are always changing, evolving. Nothing stays static in the entire universe. Everything's constantly in a state of growing or decay. And it's just like us. So to stay static it's kind of like trying to stand in a river that's flowing behind you. You have to just let go and flow with it.
Right.
What do you think some of this ties into your Indigenous heritage, you think?
Strongly, actually. Like, growing up as a child, I didn't really have much interaction with my Indigenous family. There wasn't much of that there, and I feel bad about that. And a lot of my family actually has passed away, and so I've been doing a lot of research, a lot of digging. Went to go do sweats, got my spirit name, all that kind of stuff, and it very much so ties in.
What'd you do? Oh,
Mine are back. I accidentally muted myself.
A glitch? A glitch in
guess.
the Matrix?
Red's learning too much. We gotta shut it down.
Yeah. I'm overheating.
Yeah.
The Sentinels are trying to get in.
Yeah, exactly. Eh?
But no, that's these are stupid questions. I was gonna find some rapid fire just to do towards the end of this, but before we get into that, again, full props to you for taking the plunge, moving forward, and embracing the intuition, embracing the potential, the opportunity to continue moving forward. So kind of what's I'm going to look for some of these questions as we go, but give us a rough what's the process of specifically of Spirit Counsel, the business that you are now creating. Kind of what's the process if people are interested in getting involved?
The process of working with me, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can find me at spiritcounsel.ca. I developed the website so you can book yourself your own time. I presented all my available hours on there.
Okay.
So you can find the time, the date you want, fill out the information, click book, and you'll be sent a link. Currently, right now, I'm offering it through Zoom. And soon as this COVID restriction stuff ends, I'm going to be doing in-person sessions. I was actually planning on doing in-person sessions right away, but that's kind of coincided with the restrictions. So for now, it'll be online, but eventually, when things get slightly back to normal, we're going to do in-person sessions too. So
nice.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that's cool. Sorry, I was reading some random yes or no questions. One of them is, have you ever seen someone wearing tight pants and their butts looking in shape? What is that question? That's bullshit. But all the power to you. And as far as there was something we need to touch on as well, that a listener of the show, Mitchell Buckers, wrote into us a couple weeks ago to touch on some notes. Basically, he gave us some things that we should talk about. So I wanted to quickly touch on that, especially as someone who is creating something. So maybe this is a clumsy segue. I don't know, but you're creating something. So basically, he asked us about Canadian inventors and sort of, let me quickly find it here. Who was one of the greatest inventors who grew up in Canada? What was their invention? And it moves on from there. So basically, I looked up a list of Canadian inventions and inventors. Both of you. We'll start with Chris. Name. Is there anything big that you know of that was invented by Canadians and perhaps who invented it?
I remember watching those Canadian Heritage commercials as a child.
The same thing.
Yeah.
Were you thinking basketball?
Yep.
That is definitely.
Yeah, you were, eh? Remember it was like the little wooden basket, and you went out to go with a broom
or whatever.
yeah, to pop it out.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that popped in my head.
No, that's a good one. That's a good one. Randy, what comes to your head first thing?
Oh, invented in Canada. I don't think about things invented in Canada often enough, clearly, because my
That's
brain,
the
my brain
problem.
went to basketball. I was
Yeah.
like, that's the first one I think of, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Marie Curie didn't really invent anything, but she discovered a lot of great things.
Marie Curie? She's from France.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, not fuck. Who am I thinking about? Not Marie Curie. There's one Canadian one I'm thinking about. Anyway, doesn't matter. But yeah,
That's fair. Well, I'll roll through
I
a
don't know
few
enough
here.
about Canadian inventors. Clearly,
Yeah, I'll roll through a few, and just this for Mitch. Thanks for reaching out, buddy, giving us something to touch on here. And we've hit on some pretty big things as far as Canada goes. First of all, Alexander Graham Bell, technically not Canadian, born in Scotland, but he grew up in Canada. So we can claim his telephone inventions and telecommunications, that type of stuff. But for actual
Wait a second.
Canadians,
I remember reading an article, maybe you can look it up and correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't that the credit for that invention actually post-dated to Nikola Tesla?
that was wasn't that was it the phone? I know he invented a bunch of stuff that Thomas
Or was it the
Edison
first-
stole.
Oh yeah, but wasn't there a Canadian on the East Coast sent a signal for the first time over to, I believe it was France?
That's one
Who
of
was that?
these
Who-
here.
Who was that
one
person?
is, it's right here down the list. That was wireless radio transmission. His name is Reginald Aubrey Fessenden. Was a prolific inventor. He was also the first to broadcast on the AM radio band in 1900. But he built two two-way radio transmission towers, one near Boston, the other in Scotland, and issued the first transatlantic radio broadcast in 1906. So he also invented sonar. He held hundreds of patents, including for pagers, television, and X-ray machine, television, solar, wind power. This guy was prolific. With a name like Reginald, you can't go wrong. If we're being honest.
Right on.
But yeah, so basically, again, we've been pretty prolific. A lot of it, they might technically be British, I don't know, but some of the old stuff. But basically, Canadians invented the paint roller, which is boring but kind of interesting. The garbage
Practical.
bag. Yeah, the garbage bag. The pager. Peanut butter, invented by a Canadian.
there you go.
Interestingly enough, road lines, which I didn't know was us, but the first road lines in the world were painted on a stretch of highway between Ontario and Quebec in 1930.
Really?
Yeah, people are just madhousing it all over the place, driving on whatever side they wanted, I guess. Wonderbra,
Very practical.
technically Canadian as well. IMAX is Canadian. The pacemaker is Canadian. Insulin is likely the biggest one. Dude invented that and saved thousands of lives. Frederick Banting and Charles Best, John McLeod, Bertram Collop. So basically, they won the Nobel Prize for it. So they did, and they sold the rights for $1, so that they wouldn't make money off of it, which is what we want in the world, right?
Awesome. That's cool.
Yeah. So then, JavaScript was also developed by a Canadian. The electric wheelchair.
The snowblower.
Yep. The snowmobile as well, actually, if I remember correctly, was Canadian by Bombardier.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That was also a Heritage Minute, I think, was something to do with
think you're right.
Bombardier, wasn't it?
I think you're right. Yep. But yeah, so basically, to Mitch's question, those are some crazy big Canadian inventions, and Canadians need to own our own ability more. You know, we always defer to people in other countries and other cultures and things, and you know, we made some good shit.
Yeah,
Some good
we're too
shit.
humble.
Yeah, too humble. Be humble.
That's right.
Sit down, be humble. And the second part of the question that Mitch sent was, what is one of the greatest triumphs in Canadian history? Chris, what do you think? What's on your mind as far as Canadian triumphs? Well, interestingly enough, especially as a Indigenous individual, this could be complicated, but maybe not. What do you think?
Well, I think of two. I think of Terry Fox right away.
Ooh, good
know,
one. Yeah.
You know, the inspiration that he gave to people around the world, but also the Canadarm on the International Space Station.
On the space
Yeah.
station,
I think that's a pretty neat accomplishment. You know,
Even the fact that we're included in the International Space Station is kind of bananas. Like when I first heard more about it, the fact that Canada is on one of whatever, like the 6 nations that collaborated to build the ISS. I'm like, rah rah us.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Randy, what do you think? What's the biggest Canadian triumph that comes to mind?
You stole Terry Fox from me. That was gonna be one of them, and it's kind of stupid, but I mean, the Olympics in 2010 and the golden goal
Oh, yeah,
and all that. I think was as a sports triumph, it's big. I think as a country, that was one we were all watching very closely.
for sure.
And I think, we never really felt as together as a nation for a while at that point until that was happening.
Yeah,
So I think in terms of, it's maybe not a big like humanitarian kind of thing, but in terms of like a sports thing, I think that would be one of them.
interestingly enough, that's actually part of Mitch's question was whether that's in sports, progress, and helping our country or other countries make a difference. So you hit the nail on the
Right.
head. And
There you go.
people scoff at sports a lot. Those that don't like sports, they scoff at sports a lot. But I think it can't be understated that sports is a great unifier. Like if you can be friends with people that you might disagree on about everything, but if you cheer for the same team or you hate the same teams together, there's something unifying about, well, it's tribal, right? It all boils down to
Right.
us and tribes and us
Oh, yeah.
versus them and that mentality and stuff. But you're not big into sports, Chris, are you?
Not much. I like to play sports, but to watch them, it's not my never been my thing really.
Right.
I used to be in fantasy football, but that was just like you said, for the camaraderie, for the for the trash talk and all that kind of stuff. That was
Throwing
for me the
ball-
funnest part.
The ball through the hoop in the 8th inning for the touchdown.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, in the 5th period,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, I think we answered Mitch's questions fairly well. I mean, Canada's done a lot of things abroad and domestically, as given a lot of, especially health stuff. We've done quite a lot there. Vimy Ridge, D-Day, that type of stuff, where Canadians were very much involved in liberating things and helping people, humanitarian stuff. So, anyway, on to helping people more. Props to you, Chris. Props to you. I don't. That's where that point ended.
Well, thanks a lot, man. That's
You
awesome.
bet. You bet. I'm down to go a little bit longer, but I have to pee. So maybe you guys talk a little bit more about spirits and such. I'll be right back.
Spirits and such.
It is
No,
pretty
man.
crazy.
For sure it is.
But like I said, it's just been something that has been so loud within for so many years, just to say you have to go for this kind of thing.
Right.
And I don't know. I think we just overcomplicate it and just kind of say, well, what about this? What about that? What is my family going to think? What are my friends going to think? And
Right. That's
Yep.
often the big driver, right? We don't want to become an outcast amongst our own group of people. And I
Yeah.
think that's always a big fear that stops people from doing what they want to do, right? Like myself with the wrestling, right? I'd be like, my friends will just make fun of me and family will think I'm stupid, right? So I didn't do it. But I think the less we, and even like I said, for my kid going forward, the less we stigmatize everything and just be like, hey, if you want to do that, go for it. I'm 100% behind you. Even if I think it's the weirdest thing in the world, whatever, just go for it. If it
Yeah.
makes you happy and that's what you want to do, I'm all down for that. I just want to see people be happy. I'm super pumped that you're doing this for people and helping them get through whatever they got to get through, because I think that's something that we need more in today's society, is more people to talk to and work through our issues and our problems. So props to you, man. I'm so jacked that you decided to do something like this.
oh, it's cool, man. It's pretty sweet too. Cause like I said, when I was going through all my stuff, I was thinking, man, like it would be nice to talk to somebody about this stuff. But I looked out there and it's like I don't really think there was anyone who could relate to what I'm going through. Like,
Right.
if I describe these kind of obscure thoughts, because even everything that I'm saying to you guys about the spirit world and all this stuff, I mean, I get how that sounds, but it doesn't erase the fact that it's been on my mind and experiences for this long.
Yeah.
So
And
actually,
that's
like,
something I've thought about for years too. Like you mentioned, like, the ayahuasca stuff and all that. And it's always just blown my mind how all the stories, everyone varies to a different degree based on what they need to get out of it, but they all have that same relative thread of this is a whole other reality. This is what it is. And it's the commonality of it amongst so many different people that different people that have done it is always what's kind of made me go, well, maybe there is something to that.
that's the thing too. Like I said, these thoughts were pretty prevalent, especially in my early 20s, just about like feeling like there's something trying to grow inside of me and burst out of me. And it's like, this is weird. And what am I feeling? And what is all this kind of stuff? So it's like, instead of trying to hide it and, drink it away or do drugs to try to mask what it is, it's like, well, I'm going to try to run with this as best as I can, as scary as and as weird as it feels like. But that's why I did so much research into, like, say, near-death experiences, shaman work, indigenous culture, listen to a million testimonials about people's ayahuasca experiences and all of that kind of stuff. Read every philosophy book from the past, all of that kind of stuff. And like I said, you kind of get this overall picture of what's going on with you and what's happening, what's trying to birth out of you, and just running with it. And just letting it happen, letting it take its natural course, and seeing where it takes you. And so far, it's been pretty good.
For sure, man. Well, keep taking that ball and running, buddy.
Run. I'm back.
Right on, man.
In case people didn't know, I'm back.
Where's your cats?
I know they're around. They ignore me. Wherever Cat is, they follow her. So she's down here, the cats don't come down here. Not often. Anyway, so I have, well, first of all, I don't know how much time you have, Chris, but we just touched on UFOs in the last episode that we just recorded before you. Okay, I remember you mentioning you had a big UFO story. Are you allowed to talk about that yet or no?
Well, you know what? I talk about it in the film that's coming out, but I'm not quite sure where that's at.
It's stuck in production hell right now, apparently. Hawaka was telling me that APTN has the rights to it, and they've he doesn't even know when and if it'll ever be released. So
really, eh?
Yeah.
Well, we can talk about my experience if you guys want to hear.
Sure.
Okay, so actually, this ties in very, very much so with my journey. This was on the day Ashley and I went out to the White Shell to go get our engagement photos done.
Okay.
So we spent all day out in the White Shell, and it started to rain, so we left there at about 7:00, and we started coming back in Highway 15 on Dugald. And so we hit the perimeter. It's probably about 9, maybe a little quarter after 9-ish. We're coming in from the east, heading into the city down Dugald. And in the distance, I see this glowing, pulsing red light, not just on off, but it was like a slow on, slow off, kind of coming on and off up in the sky ahead. I didn't think anything of it because I thought it was like a cell phone tower, the top of the tower there. And so we're coming down Dugald now. We're kind of by the Timmy's area there on Dugald. And I'm driving, and then that light was out of my memory. I just kind of looked over to my right, and I didn't see any cell phone towers. So then I was like, well, what was that light? So we were driving our Mazda, and there's a sunroof. I look up, and what I seen made me slam on the brakes immediately. I didn't even look who was behind me. I just slammed, going 70, just, pulled over immediately, jumped out of the car. I look up, and what am I looking at? Like, super low to the ground. I'm telling you, like I've been saying, if I had a baseball and baseball bat, I might be able to hit it. That's how close it was.
Right.
It was this massive black triangle, huge black triangle with this red glowing light in the center of it, but it was floating, like this, all black, like a heartbeat going on and off in the center of it, bluish green lights on either side. And my jaw's on the floor. I'm staring at this thing. It's so low to the ground, and it's huge. Like, it's huge. So I'm staring, and then all of a sudden it goes from not moving at all to very slowly starts moving back east, the direction we just came from.
Right.
Ashley has her head out of the car. She's seeing it too, which I needed that as validation. But I'm not losing it, right? And so we're both looking at this thing. And now it's going back over top, not right over Dugald. If this was the street, it would be up over here, over top of the businesses on the north side of Dugald, heading eastbound back towards the White Shell. So I'm watching it. It's going farther and farther away. I jump back in the Mazda, floor to the intersection. Now I'm going back towards the east, chasing this thing. And I'm doing probably 120, 130 down Dugald. The speed limit's there 70, and it goes down to 50. Yeah. And I'm flying. There's a cop station right there too.
Yeah.
And I'm just cruising, and we're looking at this thing. And all of a sudden, the triangle slowly started to go up and up and up into space. And we just pulled over and watched this red light fade away until it looked like a star. And we just sat in the car for probably 5 minutes of just silence. We didn't look at each other. We're just looking through the windshield, just in awe.
Yeah.
And then the first thing I said was, okay, let's rule it out. What was that? Was it a helicopter? No. Was it a plane? No. Was it this? Was it that? Was it a balloon? No, 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 no. And we just said, well, we can't identify it. I have no idea what this thing is. So we drove home in silence, just kind of thinking about it. And this was the interesting part. I was going through all my stuff. This was in 2015, October 4th. I was kind of going through a bunch of stuff at that time. And after I seen that craft, the very next morning, I woke up with this idea that I should start learning to meditate. That never crossed my mind before. I never thought about meditation. And so I looked it up, and that morning, the very next morning, I booked myself a consultation to learn how to meditate. And it just came out of nowhere. It was just, I tie those things together because it was like a couple weekends later, I went and learned how to meditate, and I started having these amazing experiences. So I see that as kind of like a trigger pivot point in my life that kind of spawned me to go down this direction. And from that meditation, I got into all kinds of other different healing modalities of just a constant learning about myself, learning what the nature of our reality, piecing all these things together, continuing to peel off the layers of that onion, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so it was actually in December of 2015 when I decided to actually report this UFO. It didn't cross my mind till then. So I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to submit. It's called the MUFON. Have you ever heard of this? Mutual UFO Network of Canada.
No.
It's kind of just like a database where you can submit your story, the time, all of these different things, the events. They ask you a lot of questions like, if you were to hold a basketball at arm's length, would the basketball cover the craft, or could you still see the craft? Just to determine things like that. So I submitted it. And pretty much a week later, I got a call from an investigator, and he was asking me all kinds of questions. He interviewed me. He interviewed Ashley. He said our sighting coincided with another sighting that happened in Quebec around the same time. Then interesting enough, in 2016, my dad seen an article in the Winnipeg Sun, and our story was the most interesting case of 2015, the most interesting UFO story of Canada.
Wow.
Huh.
Because I left as much detail as I could, the exact time, all that kind of stuff. So that was pretty cool. And then after that, that's when a couple of filmmakers reached out to us to get that ball rolling. But it didn't end up happening until we got this latest project going.
Yeah, I'm reading up. There's a Wikipedia page called Black Triangle UFO, and there's
TR3B.
Probably that sounds right. TR3B. I don't know.
There was a mass sighting in Belgium of the Black Triangles, and the biggest one was in 1997, the Phoenix Lights. Right over top of Phoenix, Arizona. There was people were saying it was like 2 to 3 miles wide. Even the governor I believe his name was Fife Symington. The governor of Arizona was in his backyard barbecuing, and he seen this thing, 2 to 3 mile wide triangle going over top of Phoenix. Everybody's seen it. Everybody. It was dark outside, and people said it got darker. It blocked out the stars. People looked up, and it was one of those just mass sighting moments. And it traveled for a long, long time. And thousands, tens of thousands of people seen this thing.
Yeah, that's a very, very famous one.
Yeah. Again, one of those things that I've never seen. Not that I knowingly did or not, but it's always interesting to hear people that have, especially in Winnipeg. And when you hear stuff like that, it's like, oh, it's in Arkansas or something, and then it's like, it's easy to dismiss. But, shit's wild, man.
Right.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm happy Ashley's seen it too.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would have went home and said, "What? Okay, did I see it?" I could have easily have written this thing off. And I think probably a lot of people do. Like, especially people who are by themselves, see something incredible like that, they may not report it.
For sure.
Oh, for sure.
Like the Falcon Lake incident was it 1967, and Falcon Lake, broad daylight. I forget the guy's name, but he was prospecting for gold. He was marking out his area, and 2 crafts landed.
I think
And
we've talked about this on the show before.
I think we did last time.
It sounds very familiar. Stan
Michelik.
Mikulik, that's that guy's dad. But yeah, it's like the most like famous one in Canadian history, I think they say.
Yeah, Stefan Michelik was treated at a hospital for burns to his chest and stomach that later turned into raised sores on a grid-like pattern.
Right.
Yeah, like he said, he's seen inscriptions and all kinds of different markings on this silver disc. And then he went and touched it in one area. Yeah. And all of a sudden it blasted him. His shirt caught fire and he went flying back. And then, yeah, he had those, like, it was like like you said, a grid pattern of markings on his chest. And even the Canadian Mint minted a coin in 2017 to mark the 50th anniversary of it. It was like an oblong shaped coin and it showed a UFO and it was glow in the dark. It was pretty cool, neat. And it shows, what was his name? Mitchell?
Stefan.
He's laying down and kind of like the UFO was kind of like beaming him up kind of thing.
That's cool.
Huh.
Yeah, it was pretty neat.
Yeah. I've only really had like one experience that made me question it. I never really talked about it before, but I was driving home. It was probably about 1:30 or 2 in the morning. I don't remember where I was. I think I was coming home from Steinbach and I was coming into Bothwell. So I'm going down the highway and we're like in the middle of the back roads, right? There's just a single highway going to New Bothwell. And I'm going down and there's a set of bright lights right behind me. And this could have very well easily been a car. Maybe I'm crazy, but it was a super, super, like the brightest lights I've probably ever seen in a car. You know, you get those people to put the LEDs in and they're just like insanely bright as is. Probably 2 to 3 times brighter than that. And it was coming up behind me and it kept getting closer because I kept going, what? Like, why is this guy's light so bright? What the hell? And I was like, okay, whatever. So I went for another 2 minutes and the lights were still there. And I went down to pick up my phone because I was going to take a picture because I was like, this is super bright. Like, I don't know what this is. And I went from the second I went to grab my phone and look up, the lights were gone. There was no turn nearby. And if there was, like, they would have had to slow down because I was doing about 110, 115. And I'm like, there's no turn nearby. The only one is probably half a mile back. I'm like, so from the time I went down to pick up my phone and go like this just to take a picture, like there's no way anybody could have turned. So to this day, I don't know what it is. And I've never really told anybody that. But I was like, I don't know what I just saw, but like that was really fucking weird.
Yeah.
One of those strange occurrences where you have no idea how to explain it.
Well, that's just it, right? I'm like, I said it could have been a car, but like that's a hell of a driver to be able to turn that fast and go, and there's no turns around.
Lights.
So
yeah.
No tail.
Did you end up getting home like an hour later or something like that?
No, I had no time disappearance, but no, I was just like,
no markings on your body.
Saw. No, I was up for like an hour after that, just thinking about it. I'm like, man, did I legitimately just see a UFO?
Chris, you're going to want to listen to the episode right before this one. This one will
yes, you will.
Weeks. The one right before. His name is Christian, so he's also a Chris. He has an experience where he has some time shifty stuff. So
right on
that one.
Nice.
Yeah, it's wild. Anyway, I don't know are you guys down for a quick little rapid fire questiony type stuff? I don't know.
Let's do it. I'm in.
Yeah, we can go quick. I got till about 3:30.
Okay, boom. We'll do a couple here. Here's the website right there. Some of these are bad. I don't know. I just found this website just now. So first off, if a stranger suddenly arrives and kisses you, will you let them?
No,
I'm a married man. Come on.
But what if they surprise you and you just shoot?
Well, maybe on the cheek, eh?
Yeah, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
sure. Okay.
Maybe they're French.
Not open mouth.
What would you do with $1 million? First thing that comes to your mind.
Pay off the mortgage.
Yeah, good call. Randy?
I'd be the same. That or pay off my parents' house.
We're so old and adulty. I had that thought recently. I'm like, when did we just become adults where we talk about interest rates and grass, and it's like normal conversation. Oh, you see that? Instead of,
yeah.
10 years ago, I'm probably buying an elephant, but now I'm paying the mortgage.
Yeah.
You can still do both. Let's see here. Do people usually form the wrong idea of you? Randy, what do you think?
I don't think so.
No?
No, I don't think so.
You come off as pretty authentic.
Yeah. I feel like I come off as, what I've heard, I come off as kind and fairly warm, so I think that's accurate. But
I've
I don't
held
know.
your hand. You're sweaty. You're definitely warm.
I know I'm very warm, absolutely, temperature-wise for sure.
But yeah, that's fair. What about you, Chris?
It's hard to say because you never really know what someone else is thinking. But I try to present myself as honestly as I can. So whether that scares people, frustrates them, whatever it may be,
Arouses them.
rouses, preferably.
And they
I don't know.
kiss you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fair. If it were possible to colonize Mars while we're still alive, would you go to the colony, Chris?
Yeah, I would. I think that'd be
Randy?
pretty cool.
Redo the question.
If it were possible to colonize Mars while we're still alive, would you go to the colony?
I'd have to really think about it. I probably would, but it would be a family decision.
That's fair. Kat wouldn't let me, but I would go. No matter.
Are you talking to stay?
Sure. I don't know. I haven't thought that far, but I would go.
That'd be neat because you literally become a pioneer at that point.
Yeah.
Venturing
Like
to
as
new
of
land.
now, there'd be no return trip. But if you know what I mean, like
If you go there and then have kids, then your kids would need a special Martian passport, wouldn't they? Because they're technically not Earthlings.
theoretically, yeah.
Yeah.
And their bone density would be different, and it'd be all weird.
Speaking of which,
And I think-
you guys need to watch Invincible on Amazon Prime right now.
It's great.
It's dark
Heard it's
and
good.
gory and adult comic-y, but
It's Robert Kirkman, of course it is. It's
I
excellent.
don't know who that is, but yes.
He created The Walking Dead.
Oh yeah.
It's delightful. It's like if Happy Tree Friends met The Boys, and it's quite the
Sounds
ride.
like a
Anyway,
bloodbath.
yeah. Watch the first episode at least, and then tell me what you think. Anyway, moving on. If you won the lottery, this is interesting to me. If you won the lottery, would you tell your family and friends, or keep it to yourself? Chris.
Ooh,
Yeah, right?
I don't know. That changes things, Yeah, I guess I'd tell everybody. But you know what? I think I'd want to have everything, the things I wanted to do, maybe like pay off certain people's mortgages and all that kind of stuff. Get that done first before you make some kind of a big announcement.
Yeah.
For sure. Randy?
Yeah, I would tell my immediate family and my closest friends first, and then dwindle it out from there. But very much the same. I try to do, if I wanted to buy stuff and do whatever, pay stuff off people, I do that first, and then because you're always going to get people who come out of the woodwork. Hey, I knew you 10 years ago for 3 hours. You can have some money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Okay. What's your death row meal? What's your final meal, Randy?
My death row meal. A gourmet cheeseburger prepared by Gordon Ramsay with rosemary fries and a Caesar salad.
That's good comfort food. I dig it.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Now. I haven't had lunch. Chris, what's your final meal?
Ashley makes these wicked porcupine meatballs.
Out of real porcupine? Wow.
Oh yeah, no. And that with maybe like some garlic mashed potatoes.
Oh, that's good.
There you
That's
go.
I think that'd be
Yeah,
pretty
I don't
good.
know
I don't know what I'd have. I'm too much of a glutton. Just feed me something. Just don't let me die hungry.
Just stuff me
I need
full
to
of 5
feed.
boxes of KD.
Yeah, I need to feed. Have you ever witnessed a crime, Randy?
Have I witnessed a crime?
Yeah.
That I've done myself?
Well, that would be have you ever committed a crime? But
Yeah.
Firsthand.
No, I've don't know if I ever have witnessed a crime. Not that I can recall.
What about you, Chris?
No, just accidents. Never seen a crime.
Right.
Just some accidents happen. Yeah.
It's fair. No, I've seen drug deals, but who hasn't, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's easy to see when you're handing the item over.
When you're the one buying it.
Yeah.
This is interesting, especially as a parent, Randy. Do you think white lies are justifiable?
Depends. Like if we're talking about Santa Claus, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Then
But,
I think that's okay. But I for the most part, I'm all about being honest with, my family and myself. So I think it depends on the situation. Something like Easter and the Easter Bunny, all that kind of shit, that doesn't bother me.
Sure.
But when it comes to lying, like oh, we don't do this because of this, then I don't really think that's good.
It's fair.
I think open communication is better than lying.
Sure. What about you, Chris?
Yeah, just try to be open as well.
You're just a
Much
big
as
old
possible.
liar. Just lie all over the place.
Yeah, as
Lying.
much as possible. As much as possible, yeah.
That's fair. Okay, so we'll move on. Randy's got to get out of here, so we'll shut her down. Thanks for joining us, Chris. This was last minute, but frankly, why not? It's always fun to chat with you, and
For sure.
I hope that we captured some part of the essence of the project you're trying to achieve. And people listening, if again, I'm not on that level, so I don't know the marketplace, but if people listening can relate and can get some benefit, then I hope they reach out, and you're just a smashing success.
Right on. Cool. Thanks a lot, man.
Yeah. So props to you. Say the website and social media stuff again.
Okay, so you can find me at spiritcounsel.ca. You can book yourself a session right on there. I created a self-booking tool, and you can find me on Facebook as well.
Perfect. I knew something was up because when you added me as a friend on Facebook, I'm like, he doesn't have Facebook, so something's going on here. He wouldn't just join it, and that's when I saw Spirit Counsel. I was like, okay.
I was like, oh, that's what's going on with this guy.
Yeah, sneaky.
Yeah, I've never been a social media guy, to be honest. I've never really enjoyed it, just that kind of thing.
Good.
But
You shouldn't.
You know.
It's garbage.
But you got to connect with people too, right? So
Use it for what it's meant to be in connecting with people and having conversations, not for arguing with family and diving into the cesspools.
Precisely.
yeah,
But
right.
anyway, Chris, thanks again. We'll be sure to share this far and wide, and wish you all the best.
Right on. Thanks a lot to you two guys. Right on.
No
You bet,
problem. Have a
buddy.
good one,
Cheers.
buddy.
Have a good day.
Right, we'll see you.
Bye. Okay. Well, Randy's got to get out of here real quick, so we'll do our quick plugs
Yes.
here. Social media, Two Idiots Podcast across all the shiz, except Twitter, we're Two Idiots Show. Just search us in there, YouTube. You'll find us. We're there.
We'll find us. Patreon.com/podcast. Find all our tiers there. And doubleideatspodcast@gmail.com, where you can send us an email or your questions, comments, whatever you want to send to us.
Then go to, patreon.com/2idiots podcast. I don't know, did you say that already? You probably
I
said
did. Yeah, I threw it in
Anyway,
there. It's all good.
$3 a month gets you in the door, and $7 gets you into the Idiot Hall of Fame.
Hall
And-
of Fame.
Yeah, so join in that tier of our favorite people. I don't even have it in front of me. Let's see if we can
I
wing
got
it
it.
here.
I got it. Okay,
See if you got
you wing it, and I'll see if you got it.
Okay. For sure, Mitchell Buck Pierce Buckers, the man that
Yes.
gave us the tangent today. Mr. Brian Moore is there, also delightful. Janet Gooden is in the house. Kayla Lundberg, on behalf of her and Jordan Peters. Danny Dewick, the lovely mother of the show. She birthed both of us, me spiritually, him physically.
Yes.
And I'm forgetting somebody. Drew McDonald is in there too.
Big Drew.
Is that everybody?
You ran the gamut, buddy.
Look at me. This mush in the top of my head.
Hot
It's useful.
damn.
Hot damn. The full bullpen. Anyway, folks, well, thank you for listening. Reach out to Spirit Counseling on Facebook and via their website. And I mean, like I said, I'm not there, but I hope that people can get any help that they feel they need. So
100%.
wonderful. All the best to Chris. All the best to you listening. Thank you for listening. Thank you to Randy for joining me. Thank you for me to joining Randy. And thank you to everybody for being wonderful, wonderful people.
Big thank yous all around. We love you all.
Thank you. Big kiss. All right, folks. Enjoy your day. Love you. Bye.
Bye.